Today on the Dad the Best I Can show.
I always told kids, like, especially when I taught middle school, people wanted to be lawyers. I was like, that's a math career. That's a logic career. You got to take the LSAT. You got to know all that logic. Math really touches a lot more parts of our lives than a lot of people realize.
Welcome to the Dad the Best I Can show. My name is Rob Roseman. Who wants to be a millionaire legend? Chicago futures trader, Vegas poker pro. Now I'm a dad to 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 1. Phew! Wears me out just thinking about it. Each week we're bringing on high-performing dads like you, entrepreneurs like Jesse Itzler, CEOs like David Cancel from Drift.com, athletes like Ken Rideout, best-selling children's authors like Zach Bush, to tell us your stories, your dad tips and tricks to help all of us make it through dad life. We have a brand new website over at dadthebestican.com. Go on over to dadthebestican.com and sign up with your email. It's 100% free, of course. And be the first to hear brand new dad guests and get weekly 2-minute dad tips in your inbox. How else are you going to keep up with the roller coaster that is dad life? So stop what you're doing, unless you're driving. Take 5 seconds, go over to dadthebestican.com and sign up now. All right, welcome to the Dad the Best I Can show, Experts Edition. Today we are lucky to be joined by Ray Steinmetz. Ray is a math instructional coach and the founder of blendedlearningnetwork.org. How's it going today, Ray?
It's going okay. We have one more day until spring break. So tomorrow's always an interesting day in schools, the day before vacation. So one more day, 24 hours down until a week off.
Man, it's funny. As a teacher, I never think about how excited a teacher is for spring break. We just finished spring break, and I felt like I was running a marathon the whole week. I was really excited for school to get back in session.
Yeah, I think as teachers, we are excited for breaks, but it's more of like a slow fall into the break. It's like, kind of dragging yourself into the break because just kids get really excited. And I think around this time of year, March is a really long month for teachers. And, by this time we're ready to take some time off and away from your kids.
Yes, right. Those kids, and then you can come home to your own kids. So you are a dad. How old are your kids?
I have a 4-year-old named Claire and a 2-year-old named Ben.
Yes, I know them well. For our audience, Ray is also my brother-in-law, and you are actually the second family member to appear on the podcast. I'm not sure if you know or have had the nerve to listen, but your dad was on here. And he did a great job. I haven't mustered up the courage to ask my dad to be on yet, but we're working our way up to it.
Yeah, I haven't mustered up the nerve to listen to that one quite yet, to be honest.
I feel you. He did you proud, though. Don't worry. He did you proud.
Okay, that's good.
Yes. So in true dad fashion, my kids are still up at 9:15 running around upstairs. So we keep it real here. Hopefully your sister, my wife, Angie, will contain them.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I'm for the audience, I also have my own podcast, the Instant Relevance podcast, wherever podcasts can be found. I have a similar problem where I oftentimes during interviews hear my wife containing the children upstairs with a lot of like, "Shh, Dad is doing a podcast." So I feel you right now. It's tough balancing all this stuff, and people are really only available for interviews at night. So.
That's what people want to hear, though. They keep it real. This is not a highly produced show, but we're dads, so that's dad life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Ray, you are a K-8 math instructional coach, and I'm sure you hear from a lot of kids that don't like math or struggle with math. Do you have some tips that you can give parents to maybe encourage their kids? We could start with maybe elementary school and then maybe some middle school kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to give listeners a little bit of background, I taught middle school math for a decade and just recently stepped into a coaching role where now I'm kindergarten to 8th grade and really focusing on helping teachers improve their instruction. So I've been really delving in even down, all the way into kindergarten really how kids learn math and the best like curriculum and instructional strategies. So it's really interesting being on that side of things because a lot of people have opinions based on whoever their kid's teacher is right now, how good of a teacher they have right now. It's people have a lot of opinions about math, and people are always asking. So when it comes to elementary, in particular, early elementary, it's just super important to just do a lot of games, like numeracy games with your kids. Even if you're probably not getting homework that early in your kid's career, uh, you know, kindergarten through second, third, fourth grade, it's kind of uh, half and half whether you get some homework coming home. But regardless of whatever comes home from the math teacher, you should definitely be playing just like number games, cards, just anything to get that kid like really working with numbers in their head because a lot of people don't know the standards in early elementary, but the standards in early elementary are really just like a lot of counting and a lot of just adding and subtracting. And by the time a kid is out of second grade, they really should be like super fluent with just addition and subtraction. So you really don't want your kid counting on their fingers. If you ask them like 8 plus 7, they should automatically know it's 15 rather than having to rely on their fingers. So a lot of kids don't like master that by the time they get into like third and fourth grade where the math gets a little bit harder and like, a lot of states start testing the kids. So by the time they get to that like middle elementary, third and fourth grade, you really just want that fluency like rolling off of them. And the best way to practice that is like games and just counting stuff.
So are there any like easy games you recommend that parents can do at home, or just like make anything a game with numbers and just try to make it fun?
Well, cards is always a good place to start. Our family, we're a big
Playing
card
so
family.
playing euchre with the third graders. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, just any card game, but I mean, there's tons of kids games. I mean, we have kid games for a 4-year-old. You probably got a for us for Christmas actually. So,
Right.
just any of those little board games where kids are like just comparing numbers, just you know, just moving a number of spaces. I mean, just those types of things where even just identifying numbers and being asked to add and subtract numbers like kind of quickly, especially in card games. Just all that type of stuff. If you go to the game aisle in Target, there's just a ton of different number games. And
Right. So and tell them
yeah,
that's
just
math, huh? Right. What you're doing is math and you're doing great. So just encourage them and say it's not that different than what you're doing at school.
yeah, and I think people have like this silo of math where it's just like that only that like procedural math that you kind of remember from school, but logic and reasoning is math as well. And I always told kids, like especially when I taught middle school, people wanted to be lawyers. I was like, that's a math career. That's a logic career. You got to take the
Mhm.
LSAT. You got to know all that logic. Math really touches a lot more parts of our lives than a lot of people realize.
So here's a thought and a question I see a lot when and I'm kind of nervous about this when your kid comes home in fourth, fifth grade and you don't know the answer or how to help them with it. I'm sure you get a lot of parents that are like, I remember that 30 years ago, but I have no clue how to do that now. What do you advise parents? Just Google it or what? It seems like they do things a little differently sometimes than the way we grew up.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, you see on Twitter and everything, people complaining about math these days. And one thing I like to remind people is, anything that you see like from a worksheet or something, that was created by a testing company, not necessarily always by the teacher. So, people complain about like the Common Core standards and that sort of thing. Well, it's the testing companies and the textbook companies that make the curriculum. So,
Hmm.
what you're seeing is, um, a lot of textbook companies trying to explain math in different ways because really kind of the overarching research in math education these days is having kids have the flexibility of mind to solve problems in different ways, but also being able to identify which ones are the most efficient is also an important skill as well. So if your kid comes home in fourth grade and you're like, man, I can't really remember how to do this, the first thing is to really boost their math self-esteem by just in showing them that you're not always going to know the answer to problems. So me as an adult, I don't even really know right now. So you're going to use the tools, like use the internet to help you solve the problem. That's a real world skill, is using the tools around you to solve real world problems. So rather than being discouraged and telling your kid like, I was never a math person, or man, I wasn't good at math either, or, looking at it and saying, oh man, what are they doing here? Say, hey, you know what? This is an awesome opportunity for us to solve something together. So let's look at it
Mhm.
together and see what we can do. And approach it like that. That's just such a more positive way to approach it. But also, if as a math teacher, I always get this situation where like the kid says I taught it this way at school, and then they go home and the parents like, well, I did this when I was in school. Well, you know, the more ways the merrier when it comes to math, right? Like we should be really, using our mental math strategies to really tear apart numbers and solve it a bunch of different ways. And especially when you get to like harder problems up into the algebra realm, there's a lot of different ways to solve them, even though you get to the answer the same way. So I think that keeping in mind as a parent, if you see something coming from school that you're not necessarily familiar with, don't just trash it. Be like, oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I learned it this way. And maybe even investigate a couple other ways that you can maybe even find online. Because
Mhm.
the more strategies that your kid has, the more they are able to approach a new situation and use those tools that they have to be able to solve an unknown situation, which ultimately is what in every subject you're teaching a kid how to do. You're teaching them how to use the tools that they have to solve unknown situations, be it, reading a new text in reading, doing a new math problem, or going to the grocery store, any interaction with math in the real world. You're really just, using those strategies to solve real life situations.
Yeah, and it's probably good for kids to see parents that don't know everything and that are willing to learn. It's like that growth versus fixed mindset. Like, I'm not good at math is something I'm sure 80% of us had said in our lives, but maybe we could be good if we put a little more effort in, or if, now having the internet at our hands, we can look stuff up and, you know, show our kids that we're learning too along with them.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit on something right there with the growth mindset. That's kind of the big push in math these days, is really having that growth mindset lens. Joe Bowler out of Stanford, she's a Stanford professor who has started um, an organization called ucube.org, is really pushing math education in this more open kind of growth mindset um, uh, direction. And it's been really interesting to see the work that she's doing, which is, really based on a lot of good brain research. So we know, based on brain research, a lot of, really important stuff about the way kids learn these days, and being positive, and that mindset matters. But, that necessarily, especially in math, hasn't necessarily made it into all the classrooms.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, that's a lot of good stuff. My kids are still a little young. We're still doing adding and subtracting, but I will definitely look at it, with a little more open minded and sit down with them and, like you said, turn stuff into games. Even at the grocery store, you can get this, this, and this. How much does it cost? And right, that gets just their mind thinking and get them more confident.
Yeah, any way that you can get your kid thinking about numbers is good. That's just
Yes.
period. I mean, there's, um, even with my young kids, just counting, how many is here? And if I add one more, how many is there now? And just simple stuff like that. You wouldn't believe how what I just described is like a whole kindergarten lesson. Because
Hmm.
once kids get to kindergarten, really, if you go into a math class, it's like just a lot of counting. Which
Right.
is, part of the skill set that they develop at that age. But it seems so natural, but none of this is natural for them because
Right.
their brains haven't developed it yet.
Well, as I'm sure you've learned, they are like sponges and they pick things up a lot faster than we do. So I'm always amazed at how they can like remember things, and now we can apply it to math and take advantage of that growth mindset.
Absolutely.
Let's take a quick break for our dad tip of the week, brought to you by Kickstart Reading. Do you have kids between the ages of 3 and 6? I've got 2 boys, and when my older son was going into kindergarten, my wife and I quickly learned that we had no idea how to teach him how to read. We found Kickstart Reading and watched one 2-minute video together, and you could see his confidence take off. Bonus, I felt like Dad of the Year. Here's another dad talking about how Kickstart Reading is helping his boys learn how to read.
Hey there, this is Chris Heller, and I'm a big fan of Kickstart Reading. Each morning before school, I show a video to my 4.5-year-old son, and now his little 2-year-old brother is getting in on the action as well. I'm a big fan of the videos, highly consumable and engaging for young boys. Definite recommend for all parents out there who are looking to get their kids off to the right start with reading. Kickstart Reading.
Go to kickstartreading.com and use the code DAD to get 65% off right now. That's D-A-D, DAD. See? It works. Kickstartreading.com. Now back to the show. Ray, you are a dad with 2 young kids. We like to do a dad tip of the week. Do you have a dad tip for other dads out there?
Yeah, I find that like the time when I come home from work and I pick up the kids from daycare, like that's a really hard time usually because you have a lot of things to do. You have like dinner to make. It's the first time you've come home maybe if you're picking them up on your way home from work, and it's just this time where I usually want to relax, but they want my attention, so it becomes this really tough time. I think the biggest dad tip, and once again it seems kind of obvious, is just don't immediately when you get home, start doing your chores or thinking about yourself or making dinner. Spend that half an hour just sitting down and play with your kid, because all your kid really wants is your attention at that point. And, a lot of problems come from, us just, not wanting to engage when, we've had a whole day of work or something like that. And we've got all these other things to do once we get home. So, just take that time, and I think it makes the rest of the evening just a little bit better.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes it'll be like, all right, want to watch a show and have your snack, and then we all check out. But like you said, even like 10 minutes, let's play a game together, and then you can relax. You'll feel better about yourself, and I'm gonna use that one tomorrow when they get home from school. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Ray, where can people learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so education Twitter is kind of a thing. So I'm on Twitter quite a bit. I'm blended_math, but I've started kind of a blog with a lot of different contributors called blendedlearningnetwork.org. And we put out like daily teacher tips and resources and blogs and that sort of thing. So you can check us out at blended_network or Blended Learning Network on like Facebook and Twitter. We're out there. You should go to the website, blendedlearningnetwork.org. Check it out. And then also check out the Instant Relevance podcast also, which I think I already mentioned.
Yeah, you're doing all kinds of cool stuff, and now you're in the ed tech space. So just a few years ago, you were working for the man. Now you've already been a teacher, and now you're moving up the ranks, huh?
I'm trying. The teacherpreneurship is strong. There's a lot of us out there, and but it's interesting. There's once you get on Twitter and you see what all the educators are doing, it's hard not to be inspired. That's for sure.
Well, that's awesome, and we appreciate what you're doing, teaching everybody out there. Ray, thank you for being on the Dad the Best I Can show. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Thank you guys for listening to the Dad the Best I Can show. Go take 5 seconds, hop on over to dadthebestican.com and sign up with your email to get weekly updates, dad tips in your mailbox. Get your questions answered on the show. That's dadthebestican.com. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Actually, 5 stars. We could do better than that. Brooks? Infinity stars. Cameron, how many stars?
Infinity 1,000.
Infinity 1,000. You got to one-up them in this household. Thanks. See ya.